Painting roses is something that I love, and it's a very simple task if you are able to keep the colors limited and follow the brush strokes that I'm going to be showing you in this video. I have kept the colors to quinacridone rose, ultramarine blue, sap green, and I've also used a little bit of the bright orange, Windsor orange, to highlight the centers of the larger rose when you see further down as I paint and express those petals and highlight the details. So the quinacridone rose has been diluted to get the feathery, larger petals because that's the way it is with the rose. So the centers are always going to be nice and tight and well defined and more dense in color than the edge of the roses. So if you can keep this in mind, then you'll know that as you're painting the outer petals, it's going to get lighter. I also used ultramarine blue to deepen the color of the rose for the next one and give a little bit of a change from the rose color that I painted initially. So I mixed some of that blue into the quinacridone rose, and there I have it. I have that wonderful purple violet, and I'm going to mix in water again, and you can see that I'm leaving in those white spaces, and the strokes are very gentle, but I'm not trying to really force the paint, but definitely making sure that I'm getting those shapes right. The third one is where I'm painting a bud, and I'm using more water for the right side and just a little bit of the paint that I used for the second rose. And then I'm going to wait for these roses to dry, and then I'm also going in there and adding a beautiful Windsor orange for the centers of the rose. You can add in any color that you like. It could be a complete contrast, or it could be a color that is an analogous color. That means a color that is very close to the color that we painted for the rose. Example, for a pink, we could use an opera pink, or we could use even a red, an alizarin crimson, but that wouldn't really highlight the center. So I like to pick something with denser or a creamier consistency when I come to the center of the roses. I also like to use the same paint to paint the edge of the petals in a random way, nothing uniform, to create that beautiful illusion of petals and layers and giving it a very beautiful loose character. So the first wash was a very light wash, and I'm keeping most of the areas white where I want the highlights. So I want the paint to bleed and create the soft edges. Now I'm building in the layers and adding more depth by layering richer colors. So I'm dropping in more of the ultramarine blue mixed with the quinacridone rose, and then the base of the petals for the shadows also could be used in the similar way. And then the bud is a very simple one where I have little swirls on top and just highlighting the shape of the bud. Now comes my favorite part, which is adding the beautiful, gorgeous leaves of the rose. I love to use sap green. Sometimes I actually use hawker's green, but for this purpose, I use sap green. I toned it down by adding more water for some areas. I mixed in some blues to create a darker green. And I haven't done this for this painting, but you can also use a brown. You can lighten it up with a green. But for most of the uh, leaves over here, I have used the sap green. I love the dark edges on some of the petals, and you can also sharpen the lines on the leaves, or a soft green background wash for a contrast also could be done. There are many ways of painting the leaves, but for my sake, I wanted it to be more realistic, flowy, yet visually very interesting. So I love the way the lush green moves, creates a movement in the painting. and that's what's creating that liveliness in the painting. So you can always use this technique, and you can layer as many colors as you like, but ideally 2 to 3 works best. So in this a step, I'm actually using the dark blue. I think it's a Windsor blue. You can also use an indigo, you can use a Payne's gray, and create those C curves around the center of the rose to create much more interesting painting. So don't overdo it, because the focal point over here was the larger rose, and keep the other roses like secondary roses. But I think this painting is all done because we don't want to overdo anything. So you can follow the same steps. Keep in mind that you want the white spaces, you don't want to overdo the color. You have three kinds of roses here. One has a perspective, one is full bloom, and one is a bud. And the leaves are of different shape. There's a movement to the painting, and that's the key to making this painting much more interesting and visually appealing. And in this last step, I'm actually taking a finer brush and I'm adding in the veins of the leaves, which is one of my favorite things to do. But if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. I'm just very organically adding those details in there. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. I thoroughly enjoyed painting these roses for you. It's a gorgeous little painting, but keep in mind that you always want to use good quality paper and very fine archival, highly pigmented watercolors. So there you have it.